Video, India's up against everyone surrounding them. We saw China do it, but I think India would have a better chance than China because they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 of which can't invade. And you can't invade from because they're just mountains. Here, they can easily hold a defensive if needed. Well, this is also their capital, so they are in a bad spot. Here, this area, I can imagine will die. But, But with the ocean, I think we'll start at Sri Lanka. And with India quickly after taking over all access, they quickly link up across here, setting up a naval blockade, which leads to the Battle of the Bay of Bengal, I think this is, which they push down by India's islands. But India, using sense, is like, no, we're going to blockade you here too. And well, they get pushed back because they don't want to lose this island chain. It's one of their main areas. While China's definitely sending naval assets, they aren't fully going to mobilize their navy, no. Partially. Which they do this. But the Strait of Malacca says you can't do this. Which now they're furious. They just say, yeah, we'll blow up your port. To which Malaysia and relents. But they do this. And how do they get there? Oh yeah, they did this. But they still allow ships through. They may dominate it with their navy. But naval domination is easily contestable. Why so easily contested? Because, well, look at it. It's boats. And well, China tries to break the blockade, but is a fail. As I was trying to get boats there to help, but these boats fail. With India setting up a blockade here. Making it hard for even this partially mobilized, even if it was fully. With quickly after this happening, the first land battles take place in Sri Lanka. With Pakistan plotting something in the north, while India does this, slams across Sri Lanka, with Sri Lanka being the first death. But then they quickly start moving into here and here. With fighting in Kashmir breaking out as Pakistan attempts to break Indian lines, which they succeed in, but to break the advance into their territory. With China being 2 places ahead of you, a place ahead of you or something, you're not in a good spot. You don't have any allies, too. Karachi has fallen. But it kind of stalemates in Pakistan, with China trying to cross here. Eventually, China manages to cross here. But to their surprise, there's harsh defense in this area, who somehow manage to set up a defensive there, and then their next goal is to cross the border into Myanmar, which they succeed in. Which Myanmar is another weak nation, but you have China and Pakistan. That's why you're at a disadvantage, but for the same reason you're at a disadvantage, you're at an advantage. Because Pakistan, as we know, has a case of the unstables. And well, Islamabad falls, but due to not wanting this video to end quick, Chinese defenses push south, making Islamabad more, indefinitely more so, contested, along with making Delhi contested. Which India's forces here continue their advance, especially making advances into Bangladesh, which they managed to take out quickly. But just because they're having the advantage now does not mean the partially mobilized Chinese Navy can't make a change. As we know, wars can have drastic changes. And this is where they make a landing and they start moving their forces up into Myanmar. With Myanmar in a bad spot, eventually a harsh Chinese invasion is made, which hurts a bunch of civilians. But China doesn't care. That's sad. I'm guessing this wouldn't happen, but as we know, people in war do suspicious things. How about America and Laos? You did that without a war. Yeah, that's mean, America. Oh, we couldn't? When I did China, I considered Malaysia a neighbor because of the South China Sea. But why didn't I decide they were neighbors? Because, well, India does occupy there, so I could have said Indonesia as a neighbor. But, I didn't think of that at the time. Would be a good ally for China. Or Thailand, I could have said, but I didn't really decide to do that this time. Why, you may ask? Because I didn't think of it. With the south of Pakistan stopping to be contested, as India uncontests this zone. With China pushing towards Islamabad, trying to re-liberate it. They fail. Wait, one sec. I just need to fix the map. I said they still have Islamabad. That's where Islamabad is approximately. With China keeping the north of Bangladesh from falling, they attempt a new campaign south in Bangladesh. Which they start going behind the front lines, with India's military strategists suggesting a military retreat, which India takes seriously and actually leaves. That's a shock. Somebody's actually taking their general's advice seriously. That's how you win a war. But a lot of wars become political. And once a war becomes political, well, it's kind of not good. Attempt to turn the tides of the war, they start major pushes by Delhi, 2 major to be exact. With kicking China out of Kashmir along with Pakistan. Their goal from here is to continue north and re-liberate the other side, with them storming into the country of Pakistan, and they take these lands back from China. Which, their storming of Pakistan went to success, so now they move to a different front, which is the Myanmar front, where they push north. And then they start a campaign here to recording to go ahead, with India actually having major success, with the Chinese people a bit outraged. But China starts a new campaign to take out one of the Sentinelese island chain. Watch out for one of them is all I have to say. There's a bunch of cannibals on one, I believe, or something. With China, if China manages to take out these islands, they're in a good spot, with India's trade being decimated. With this happening, of this major sea campaign putting Indian positions in danger. With Indian positions being put in severe danger. With Pakistan's government being exiled in Beijing. Actually, they went to Shanghai, is where they decided to go. No, I'd say they would most likely go to Xi'an, say there, which they push into Pakistan, basically, with the Indian public a bit outraged at this starting to fail. This war against their neighbors, so it continues landings, cutting these off. Eventually, they take them out, forcing them to surrender, or they kill them, basically. And they start a push into Myanmar, with the Chinese people unoutraged at this war. And now actually willing to fight. If Islamabad falls, Indian morale will collapse. With them nearing the south of Islamabad and the north. Eventually they do this, which leaves Islamabad ready for encirclement, which goes to success. So India is pushed back. And to help fuel this Pakistan push, you know what China does? Oh yeah, they send their forces into here, along with this new Pakistan government, with the government that exiled all the way to Shan back. And yeah, they push in towards New Delhi, with the war taking a major turning point as China does this. With this being like the end of the war for China as we know it, for India as we know it, as China manages to shove across and do that. And the naval fighting by this area begins, with this not contested area being taken over by China, and China storms into those lands, the Sea of Bengal, in the Indian Ocean, which they do this. Which they even cut this off, with them completely decimating India's front lines on every front known to man. India's collapse begins, with Bangladesh falling, with this area, the Bengali area of India, I guess it's called, or something. I don't know what it's called. With a landing being made by China down here. Eventually, people in India revolt. I think revolts are a great idea for a anti-war group who's still democratic, just anti-war. And is like a pacifist group. But you see the irony with this pacifist group. They want peace, but look at what they're doing. They're killing people. Yeah, really? That's how you get peace? With an anti-government, pro-Chinese group, pro-authoritarian group rising up. And they do this. With India basically now in a state of civil war, Pakistan's front collapses. I'm basically having to withdraw from here. With this going from being a war to more of a intervention in the Indian Civil War, they now change the name of it to. Intervention in the Indian Civil War. Which, we don't need naval dominance for this, I tell you, one sec. Now, mostly to secure their best interests, basically. And to try to get peace out of India, which still hasn't come to peace negotiations yet. Which they take Delhi, basically. Which puts a lot of pressure on the government. But the government is reported to disappear. Yeah. How come the government's disappeared is my question. With the pro-Beijing forces being now supported by Beijing, Beijing says they won't lose as much land as if they win the war. But if the pacifists win, it's a different story, guys. Looks like the pro-Beijing forces are going to win. Because look, Beijing just whipped them around. As if America would let this happen, because if one democracy falls, let's go to the dominoes theory. More will. I don't know if the dominoes theory is correct, but throughout the Cold War, it was a thought of theory. What's something interesting about India? Oh yeah, it's the second most population. It's likely going to become the most populous country, with Chinese peacekeeping forces starting to attack the pacifist government, which is not great. With India basically starting to think maybe we should go towards China, the east. but they don't want to for some reason. Well, Sri Lanka has had a rough history, to be honest. Think of it. With that pro-China government actually becoming very huge of a deal for the survival of India. With them starting to do well, China and allies stop their skirmishes. With them recognizing this as the official government of India at the mercy of China and Pakistan. Because Pakistan and China now have the ability to directly threaten the capital of Delhi, which is about there, versus Islamabad, which is now protected. Bangladesh's main population area, pretty well protected. This is like the main area of Bangladesh, protected. The main area of China, well, obviously is protected. And what else is there? There's a city right there, I believe. A city there. I don't know where the rest of the cities are, but I believe most people live in this area, but the cities like Mumbai that we're well aware of in India is down here. Delhi is in the north. But look, see? That's interesting. But it goes farther north. Obviously, it looks very tiny on this map because, well, we can't really do anything on this map. You know what India says? They need you to do to this channel to gain back their strength after this? You know what? Where my channel is banned and what they say? My channel is obviously banned there. Have you seen all my stuff? Taiwan, independent. Negative 7 billion social credit score. So I guess I shouldn't go to China. Do they even still use social credit scores? But Sri Lanka got a lot of land. Never I gained land. Except India, who fared really horrible in this. So you should really sub. We're at 95. That's 5 away from 100. If one person subs for the next 5 days, we'll get there. If 2 people sub, we'll get there quicker. If 5 people sub today, we'll get there tonight. You should really sub. You really should. And why should you sub? We're almost to 100. We want to be to 100 by this 25th. For Christmas. Not to be confused with Orthodox Christmas. If it was Orthodox Christmas I was aiming by, I'd have a lot more time to get there. You really need a sub. It would mean a lot. And you should comment. Just let me know you're enjoying this and leave a like. That's all for today's video. Wild Mapper out.